Hello, and welcome to the latest FT Digital Dialogue, Building a Future-Ready Business in partnership with IBM. Today, we're going to be discussing how to create a resilient digital business and operating model. I'm Malcolm Moore. I'm the FT's Technology News Editor, and our topic for today is something that a lot of companies are thinking about as we near the end of a tumultuous 2020 and we start to prepare ourselves for 2021. The business landscape is changing rapidly as companies move to the cloud and computing increasingly moves to the edge. Businesses are facing not only the challenges of managing the economy and an increasingly distributed workforce, but also megatrends like climate change. So today, we're going to be addressing new ways of working in a digital world, how to adapt to the challenges and opportunities of connecting data, how to build resilient digital businesses, and what outcomes you get when you connect up all your data and you turn your operations digital. We have a fantastic panel with us. We have, let me introduce them to you. We have Rick Villas, who is the Group Vice President of Worldwide Research at IDC, and he's going to be sharing with us some of the big themes that he's seeing. We have Jen Didoni, Head of Cloud Portfolio at Vodafone Business, who can tell us what her clients are focusing on and asking for. And we have Sijo Joseph, Chief Information Officer at Mighty, which is a fantastic case study of a large business that is rapidly transforming itself, even as it faces the challenges that the coronavirus pandemic has thrown up. So please ask questions. We'll tackle as many of them as we can towards the end of the session. And to all of our viewers in the US, I'd like to wish you a happy Thanksgiving and thank you very much for taking the time to tune in. Now, let's start by Rick. Tell us, what are you seeing at the moment in terms of how companies are thinking about the next 12 months? What are they prioritizing right now?
Yeah, thanks, Malcolm, and thanks for the Thanksgiving wishes. It's a pleasure to be here and chat all with you. Looking forward to a great conversation. Well, IDC has spent the last 6 months interviewing and talking with CIOs and IT executives around the world, and three major priorities have emerged that we think are going to dominate conversations in the next year as companies do start creating this future enterprise. The first is accelerated transformation. There's no question things like the idea of an agile workforce, which I know Sijo is going to dig right into, is a critical change where people are really moving faster than ever before visualized. The other big one we see is a transition to cloud. That companies that had talked about cloud journeys of 10 years or 5 years say, we have to complete this in 3. We need to become more agile and use cloud to make that happen. The second big trend is, let's face it, we're going to have to do a lot of remediation. There were things that companies did to deal with the crisis that worked. And I think we should all say that IT teams did a fabulous job helping companies navigate these changes, but they did expose limitations around things like network security, for VPN, basically that we have to redo. And ultimately, companies are going to have to pivot to what we call digital resiliency. And I think you highlighted this well, where we're resetting that more resiliency is less about anticipating problems and more about being able to react rapidly to change. And that becomes part of how you judge your own business's viability. And then the last big development we see is in any crisis, there's always organizations, companies who want to take advantage of that crisis to accelerate their competitive position. And we're finding already, we're seeing companies that are looking at acquisition of competitors, of players in new markets to enter and drive their own business transformation. One fascinating thing we've seen is a number of large non-technology businesses going out and actively investing in AI technologies and companies to help them drive that transition. So this is really what we think is going to be the agenda for the next year, 2 years, as companies really start accelerating and dealing with what their next normal is going to look like.
Okay, that's some fascinating insights there, Rick. So basically the dust has settled, where we've got to patch up some of the problems that this huge shift has created. We've got to speed up, and we've got to look at where the potentials are to really transform businesses through acquisition and how you move that forward. Jen, are you seeing the same trends? Is that what your clients are coming to you and asking about?
Yeah, very, very similar trends. So, I mean, I think one of the things I'm most grateful for. I'm American, so I've got to use the Thanksgiving gratitude posture today. But it's been such a difficult year. But I do think what an incredible year to prove that actually overnight you can completely transform the way that you connect your employees. Because we helped lots of customers, banking institutions, insurance companies, online retailers with huge contact center installations, utilities with big contact center installations, who could pick up the phone to us and say, I need to move all these people home tomorrow. How can I do that? I run everything on premise. And actually, all of the innovation that's happened over the last 5 to 10 years with cloud computing actually had so much more potential that we didn't even realize we could tap into. And this year proved out that we could do that. So certainly immediately in the pandemic, it was all about, okay, let's get our employees remotely enabled, adapt to cloud services. When you do that, the enterprise perimeter disappears, and you need to take a different security posture, as Rick alluded to. So we're also seeing a lot of questions around zero trust security, and how customers can make sure with all these endpoints out in the field, they can still control their systems and their data. And the last thing I'm seeing, and I think this is where CJO and Mighty is such a great example, is we didn't really expect how many customers would lean in at this particular time and say, actually, my company's in crisis or the economy's in crisis. I need to transform, and I actually need to put more investment into technology, or to take the big leap for something that I've been planning for a long time, but I'm going to put that on the acceleration, because if my business doesn't change in this period, I'm not sure if I'm going to get out the other side. So it's been a really interesting time, from the very basics all the way to big transformation programs.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely spot on. I mean, you know, what I've been hearing is that the crisis has really proved that the tech works, and also given companies an appetite to find out where they can go next, right? So, okay, it's all working. Let's press ahead. How much faster can we go? Now, turning to you, Sijo, because actually feels to me like Mighty is ticking all of Rick's 3 big trends here. You are accelerating, and you've made an acquisition. But just for our viewers who maybe aren't quite as familiar with your company, please can you just give us a little introduction into Mighty, right? You're basically the hidden workforce that runs, certainly in the UK, all of our offices, our government buildings, our hospitals. Basically, you're the backbone that kind of holds it all up, right?
Thank you, Malcolm. Thank you very much for the introduction, and happy Thanksgiving from a British to the US counterparts. And I should say I'm in one of the best companies I can ever wish for, Vodafone and IBM, my co-partners. So let me start a little bit around Mighty. So Mighty is one of the UK's biggest facility management companies. Now, what does facility management companies do? Which means we provide all the core services that keep workplaces running smoothly and safely. Now, this is from everything from the security guards to the reception staff, to the cleaners, through the engineers who looks after your air conditioning, your heating, your lighting in your offices, the energy managers behind the scene optimizing your energy consumption, the ground landscapers, the people who manage your waste. So that's what we do. And these are the people that you will see at your workplace every day, but who perhaps may have previously gone unnoticed. There's a reason I say that, because last 8 months, we all been going through this terrible pandemic. We have been lucky that we are working safely from our own homes. But when it comes to Mighty, we are extremely proud of our 37,000 colleagues working in the frontline roles every day, supporting the data centers, the food retailers, the hospitals, the power facilities, the railway stations, you name it. We are there, out in the field, right in the front line, keeping the Britain going. And it's also equally important for our facility managers who are working very closely with our clients to make sure when we open up these office spaces or these retail stores, we are bringing back the people back into these premises in a safe and secure way. Um, so that's what we might as a company do. We are into facility management. Now coming back to the technology, that's a very interesting topic, very close to my heart, and to the panel as well, and the audience who joined us. Mighty 3 years back, we had a new management team under the leadership of CEO Phil Bentley. One of the vision we had 3 years back was we will transform Mighty into a technology-enabled facility management company. 3 years back, we had that vision that we will connect up all our systems. We will make sure our clients and our customers and our employees are benefiting from technology. We done a massive program last 3 years. We completely transformed our technology stack. We enabled new client offerings. We set up a big data lake. We set up IoT. And from a technology transformation, we started bringing the best in breed technology for the facility management. It starting from the data lake to the IoT to the artificial intelligence to the machine learning. And we achieved this through our key partnership with IBM and Vodafone. And Vodafone not only being our key partner for my technology side, but at the same time, we serve Vodafone. We look after the Vodafone facilities throughout in UK. So there is a lots of things, there's a lots of work which we did, Malcolm, and I'm very happy to share that with the
Yeah. So great, TJ. So just take us back to 3 years ago. How were your operations running before you began this process? Was it checkboards and pieces of paper?
It's pretty much Excel sheet. I think the company ran on Excel sheet, and we had multiple systems. So in facility management, traditionally very low invested, low margin business. So traditionally there is a software called CAFM, which stands for Computer Aided Facility Management System. So this is where you register a job for your client. And what we found out 3 years back, the jobs were transferred through Excel sheet, through email, through phone calls. The systems were not even connected. We had multiple data. Our data centers were in multiple places. We have got physical data centers. What we done 3 years back with Vodafone, we lifted and shifted all these various CAFMs and the support systems into Vodafone private cloud. That's the step one. That's what we did. Then now we are doing it with Vodafone and IBM. We are now migrating that into Azure. So we are completely cloud-enabled business now. Last 3 years, we started connecting these systems together, electronically connecting these systems together. While we were doing that, we were also started streaming this large amount of data which we have got into the data lake, again cloud hosted. We started deploying IoTs. So you could say this is a classic case where not only we try to uplift our technology stack, at the same time we try to adapt the modern technology back in. Now, why we do that? Because our clients can have real-time reporting, so that our employees can have the tools in their hands, in the mobile phone, so that they can book a job, they can receive a job, and perform their job much better rather than waiting for a phone call and Excel sheet landing in the lap.
Okay, so this huge shift to the cloud, when the crisis hit this year, what did that mean then that you would move from your own software system to putting everything in the cloud? What does it allow you to do?
Quite interesting you asked that, because last year when we were Windows 10 last year, the entire workforce we were on Teams, we were on O365, because we as a company is Cyber Essential Plus certified, which means everything has to be secure, everything has to be mobile. And I remember last year we were speaking to our clients and to our own employees, look, we are cloud enabled. You can access your work from anywhere, from any devices. And remember, we are a facility management company, not a technology company. We are striving to be a technology company. And the COVID happened. One of the saddest things as a pandemic which hit us, all of us. The day the lockdown started, I remember there was obviously panic, how the business is going to perform, what we do, whether we can work from home. The next day, we as a company, we didn't see any change. People just went back to their home, they plugged their machines in, because we are cloud enabled. You can work from anywhere. And we didn't, funny enough to say, we didn't have the panic which many of the companies gone through, like how we mobilize our workforce, because we were ready last year.
Yeah.
And it's come to our clients as well, the same thing. Till last year, we were telling the clients, you need this real-time reporting, you need this technology in your premise. So why don't you partner with us? The complete game change. This year, the clients are coming to us and saying that, when can you deploy this technology to us, and how quickly can do it? Can you make everything IoT enabled? So so last year it was a push. This year it is a pull from our clients.
Yeah, I have to say, and I don't want to reveal too many secrets about the FT, but we have also switched everything to the cloud. And our entire, what we call the content management system that actually powers the website and runs the newspaper, we went live with that with an in-house system that we built ourselves. It was cloud-based. I think it was about a week before or 2 weeks before the UK went into lockdown.
Yeah.
So I mean, it really did feel like if this pandemic had happened a few years ago, we really would be in a very different position. Rick, is that what you're seeing? What proportion of companies do you think have made the jump, and which sectors have still some way to go?
Oh yeah, you've touched on a great issue, and it's something we're in the same space as all of you in this dynamic and watching the transition. And some of the times we have been asked, and some of our colleagues we said is, what if this crisis had happened 5 years ago, 10 years ago, in 2000, and the stories would have been completely different, and how it would have played out is completely different. So having the cloud out there, having the idea of mobile systems has played a big role in this. What we're seeing now, though, and we've talked to a lot of enterprises, is, as we've seen this, we did see this huge shift to people working at home. But one of the misunderstood things is it's not everybody went home. What we'd said is, before the pandemic, maybe 10, 13% of employees worked from home on a regular basis, and the rest were either in the office, a facility, or in the field. Now, when this pivoted, we saw a huge increase of work from home, but it only went up to 45%. So still 55%, a majority of people had to work in the front lines, or they had to work in the facilities or in the field. And I think the biggest change, and what cloud really helped, is, while we can talk about us working from home, it was how cloud enabled people to continue to work in the field, in the hospitals, in the factories, in the warehouses, in a much more secure way and an effective way. And that's what we heard about, is companies able to create very quickly, as you just talked about, these new applications for workplace safety, or for doing remote certification of equipment, which is a big part of what happens in factories and warehouses. How do you provide that kind of ongoing operational skills, but do it in a way where people can be safe and distanced? That's where cloud really showed its speed, right, here, and that's what we see continuing. Is the focus is that part of the story, is what we think is going to play out. Absolutely,
I totally agree with that, and I think, CJ, you'll probably have a few things to say about that as well. But am I also right in thinking, of course, that one of the things is it also connects people in the office or working from home with frontline workers, right? It's being able to share information back and forth that means that you can make decisions in real time that actually keeps everybody safer.
Yeah, this is something we've called hybrid by design, and it's an important design point that's coming out right now.
So CJ, can you tell us a little bit about how your frontline workers are interacting with your office workers?
Absolutely. I mean, Rick is spot on. The examples he's given, whether we are serving our hospitals or the facilities. I mean, just to give you some numbers to put these things in perspective. I mean, we have got something called service operation centers, where we remotely monitor and manage the facilities. I mean, just to give you some high-level number, we've got 44,600 critical assets, which we real-time monitor 24/7 from our service operation center. We've got 800 million data points already available in our data lake. We've got 380 clients connected to our service operation center. What does it mean? It means not only our own employees who have got these mobile apps, who are connected, who can get their job without calling up a contact center. Not our clients have got the power of real-time monitoring and managing and seeing what is happening to their repair jobs or their facilities. And these are big numbers. I mean, if I just give you an example, what we did with Vodafone as well, energy is going to be the big future, and energy management is going to be very big. I mean, Rick will touch upon that, but just to give you an example, what we did with Vodafone, by just proactively managing their facility through technology, remotely monitoring it, we reduced Vodafone UK's carbon footprint by 25,000 tons, and we saved roughly around 100 gigawatts of energy in last 3 years. Now, if you translate that to this energy saved could power a town with a population of 65,000 people for a year. That's 65,000 people for a year where we can supply energy with that energy what we saved. For Vodafone UK business, that is more than over 10 million pound saving. So you could see that by just putting some sensors, monitoring it, remotely managing it, what a massive difference it is giving to our clients and to our frontline staff as well, because they are equipped with these wearables, they are equipped with these mobile phone technologies. So these are real numbers we are talking about.
Yeah. Jen, can I just come to you now and ask, obviously all of this happened at very high speed, as we've already discussed. What are the challenges that we've had in scaling up this quickly?
Gosh, I mean, I think that's one of the things that is great about cloud is that it's on demand and can scale quite rapidly. What I would say is, from a quite human perspective, I think for a business like Vodafone that sort of sits right in the heart of remote working and cloud, most of our, not most, I think a good majority of our employee base suddenly had kids from home. They were teaching and they were working, and lots of challenges as well around sort of personal health, well-being, etc. during this time. So it was I think the technology was resilient, and there it was actually the workforce, the human side of things, where we had to take a different, more understanding, more forgiving, maternal, paternal approach to running a business as well. And I think that's one of the things that, again, I'm on the grateful note. I'm just grateful to work for Vodafone that I think has a very human side. We're for sure a tech company, but part of the spirit of what we do is looking after our people and looking after talent and thinking about new ways to take care of people and talent within the base, which is actually one of the things that, being a resilient business and a future ready business, one of the key attributes that we see from that is a company that's really thinking about their people and their talent, and that's part of their key growth agenda. And I think COVID forced a new way of thinking about that in that none of us, certainly not me, would have imagined.
Okay. Okay, so I mean, the infrastructure was there, and capacity can scale quickly. And I guess actually we all adjusted much faster than perhaps some of our bosses thought that we would.
Exactly.
But what about security? How much of an issue has that been? Something that Rick mentioned at the beginning. One of these, now that we've reached this point, we actually need to look back a little bit and see where the issues were that actually, how do we optimize those going forwards?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of the things that we've tried to work with customers to make it a very user-friendly approach to security, which can often seem a bit like a dark art and require lots of due diligence and investigation. But if you're trying to transform your workforce overnight, you want to have something that you can also scale and deploy overnight. So we have a wide range of services. Like certainly we have the more sophisticated large enterprise services that you would expect that we work together with IBM to deploy to large enterprises to detect threats, respond to threats, protect your cloud infrastructure. But we also have a range of applications that we can deploy to devices and endpoints to be able to protect employees on the run. And what's important is making it very simple and easy to deploy for our customers, because the pace that COVID has introduced does not tolerate things that are complex, difficult to deploy.
Okay. So, Sijo, turning back to you, you've moved everything to the cloud, you've created a data lake, and you've started putting IoT sensors in a lot of the facilities that Mighty is managing. Tell us about what that means going forward, because, let's cross fingers and hope that actually in 2021, people might be returning to a lot of those facilities. What can you now do that you weren't able to do 3 years ago?
And we were already on that journey last year, and what we are seeing with our clients is now the clients want more of those technologies in their premises, whether it is there in their manufacturing unit or the secure way they want to open up offices. I mean, the demands will be as simple as like having a desk monitoring sensor where they could see when the workforce comes back to their facilities, it is safe and secure, and they are in a safe and securely distanced. I mean, even when we opened up offices in between the lockdowns, we had that technology which will help our clients to monitor real time when the people are coming back. People are placed in a secure distance. The meeting rooms are not congested because this is all the sensors which we deployed. To just give you an example, with our clients, multiple clients, we have got 11,000 desk sensors which we actively monitor as of right now in the security operation centers, and we are getting more demands. And I think suddenly we are right in the front of everybody's mind, saying that how secure our facilities are now after this COVID pandemic when people come back to the work. And don't forget, this is a wake-up call for humanity, because if we had one pandemic, there will be, who knows what is going to happen in the future. We will be much prepared. So it will be better to have the technology preparedness inbuilt into these facilities so that people are safe and secure and monitored in the sense whether they are close together or whether they are in a secure distance. We have got humidity sensors, carbon dioxide, which we were already deploying. Now this all coming into the part of the services which we are offering to our clients, and it is becoming more and more prominent, because when you look at our security guards, they have got wearables, we have got the cleaners, we are deploying wearables. There are lots of things which we are doing which clients see the value, and they are also working with us, saying that how we can get the best value of the technology. Technology is a game changer. Within a year, we are looking at a different setup in the office space and workplaces. The premises where people are going to go back, whether it is a food retailer shop or a clothing shop, wherever we go back, you would see lots of technologies playing in the fabrics of that premises.
Right. So actually, this is how you get resilience, right? If you have the information, if you can track what is going on in a certain area, then you don't have to shut down a whole factory floor or a whole office building, right?
Absolutely. Real-time information, streaming the information right into the data lake through the, like Vodafone is our network backbone. We use Vodafone networking and the backbone to pump this data, stream into the data lake, real-time reporting in the hands of facility managers, in the hands of shop managers, and everything is dynamically monitored.
Right. And at the same time, presumably your sensors are saving energy because they're automatically switching off heating and cooling systems. And in fact, you don't have to have extra maintenance people going into spaces because you can do it all remotely.
That's a very interesting point you picked up as well. Like, one of the biggest tasks which we did last 8 months was helping our clients to hibernate their office spaces, and also monitoring how the energy consumption is, because you can't just shut down the buildings and not having energy supply into it or having that heating conditions checked. So we were doing remotely. The future going to be the two concepts we are working together with Vodafone is one is called digital maintenance and connected engineer. These are the two concepts we are working here. We're pretty much out there. The digital maintenance we already have got, where exactly the point you said, you don't need engineers going back and again in a workplace. If you've got a problem, proactively manage it, predict it before it fails, get somebody in the downtime, fix it, first time fix, and come out of it. So that's one aspect of it. The second aspect is what we are doing with the connected engineer is when the engineer goes in, even though if you send an engineer, multi-skilled engineer, and he does not know what the equipment is and how to repair it, remotely somebody helping him through our service operations center and maintaining that particular that's on the concept. And that's where the 5G bandwidth, the Vodafone, which we are looking at, the wearables coming into play as well. So we are already thinking about what next year looks like with the technology.
Okay. Jen, listening to Cijo, it sounds like there's a huge amount of data that is being thrown up here, that's being processed all the time. Again, coming back to security, how does that play in now? What are the systems that we have to make sure that all of this is being processed securely, that it can't be manipulated in any way, that actually there are no external threats that can come in and turn my heating and cooling systems on when I'm not there?
Gosh, well, I mean, it's certainly important to have security at multiple layers, right? So having a secure network like Vodafone's IoT network is runs on a particular secure layer. We also have the ability to protect the device and monitor the device, monitor what's happening in the network and the cloud. And I think most importantly, as people really go remote, to treat everything as an external potential threat, which sounds like really like onerous, but actually, if you then just sort of say, listen, I'm not going to implement different behavior for something that's sitting on premise or on my VPN, because really everybody's everywhere and they're attaching to different Wi-Fi networks that I can't control. And I don't know if they're sitting in a coffee shop or they're sitting on their home broadband, what it is. Let's always make sure that we are treating everything as a potential, and we give the same security benchmark to every actor in the system. I think that's where the world is evolving, and we're seeing a lot more as well, like customers are embracing software-defined networks over the internet. They're using the internet to connect to the cloud, and therefore they need to implement more security within the way that they manage everything that attaches to their cloud and everything that they let into their devices and their IT systems. So the whole kind of, I think, architecture of how people set up their networks and secure their networks is definitely changing, and this like rapid movement to the edge, i.e. the edge remote worker, has driven that change quite significantly as well.
Okay.
The other point I just wanted to pick up on that Cijo mentioned is, like, I think that is a real indicator of a future ready business, is one that's saying, listen, I'm going to start collecting all of this data. And maybe I know immediately a use case that I can drive with it, but maybe I don't. And maybe in 2 years' time, all of a sudden I'm going to be sitting on a wealth of data that's going to help me automate and run my operations better. Like, maybe I can start to correlate when defects are going to happen because of a variety of data points that I captured from something else in the past. So I think that's also something that is really super critical. And I think that in my mind, there's like this perfect storm of technology trends that have come together, whether it's, the rise of cloud, software-defined networking, eSIMs, AI, machine learning, containerized technology so you can move workloads from one cloud to another. All of those things come together to say that actually we can really start to drive automation and responsiveness to data points that we're getting from the environment around us in a way that we never could before. And I think that's going to just keep exploding, and we'll start to really reimagine the way that our facilities, our people respond to the environment around it, whether it's fully automating certain processes or capabilities in a manufacturing site or a facility that Cijo runs, or it's reimagining how we can interface with device endpoints that can be so much more responsive to what we need and the environment around us. Like, I think we'll start to explode past a two-dimensional device interface into something that is not just three-dimensional, but just like fully immersive. It's part of our environment and it responds to us in our environment.
Okay, well, we're definitely going to come to that part of the future shortly. But first, I wanted to ask Rick, before we get to being fully immersed,
Yeah.
How, what share of companies would you say are at Mighty's, have reached where Mighty has got to? And then, what is the next stage beyond that?
Yeah, this is an interesting question, because at some point people would say, well, how do we find it? It's like, how many people have moved to cloud? And that would be the way you'd resolve it. And the challenge we run into, because Mighty and CJ said this very clearly, they've moved very aggressively to cloud. I mean, our answer would be, it's already 90%. Everybody's moved to cloud. The bigger issue, and I think Jen and CJ both raised this, is in this future world, in this more resilient world, the successful companies, the mature ones, are the ones who can deal with all the cloud assets that they're taking advantage of and leveraging. So we can call that multi-cloud or hybrid cloud. The thing we see is that most companies today, that's a great description of what they have, but it doesn't reflect a strategy. It doesn't reflect a sort of intent or where they can get value. And I think CJ and your team, hearing what you guys have done, the way you focus on it, you're definitely way far down on that maturity curve of recognizing that your focus has to be on, what do I need to have in place to get value out of all my different cloud resources, and have a sort of well-connected operating and management model. And I'd say, even frankly, you've made it the last step. You're becoming a cloud provider yourself. Those services you're creating, those that you're developing, those are SaaS offerings. And this new world that we're going into in the edge and whatever, it's about getting solutions and applications out to that customer, to that location, to provide real-time context. And if the foundation that we've seen, you've put in place to manage the data, to collect the data, to secure it, when you can start tying that into connectivity and the ability to access cloud resources where you need them, that's the next step that I think will define who's really going to succeed in this space.
Yeah, I think you've put it incredibly eloquently there, Rick. Somebody was saying to me that, during this pandemic, as you say, everybody has accelerated, but in fact, what a lot of people have done is just taken their all of their normal activities and just try to replicate them in the digital world. Whereas it seems to me that the difference is which companies have actually thought through from the endpoint and then work backwards, right? So if we are able to do all of this, what do we want to try and achieve? And then what do we have to do in order to get there?
Yeah, absolutely. That defines it perfectly well. Is start, it only has to come down, what's the value you're giving to that end user or end thing that you're dealing with? So,
yeah. So I guess my next question to you then, Rick, is how does a company change mindset from we can simply have a digital version of our previous analog business to what are the new things that being digital allows us to do?
Yeah, that's a fascinating question. And I'd say, the key, ultimately, it comes down to leadership. So, and it sounds like, CJ, your team, there was a leadership commitment to transition and change. And everything else we can talk about, technology, products, it absolutely takes that leadership. People want to sell that vision and then execute on it. Having said that, once you've made that determination to do it well, is we really are saying now there's 3 or 4 things that you have to really want to focus on when it comes to your technology choices. So the first one, I think Jennifer will appreciate this, is it's clear in this new world that connectedness and connectivity is the foundation. Having secure, consistent, reliable connectivity is a starting point, because then you can start thinking about what I can do with it. The next stage is where cloud really fits in, is everything that I want to do here requires that I be able to get a lot of compute or store a lot of data or move a lot of information very quickly anywhere. And that's really where this hybrid cloud conversation is about, is creating that well-connected cloud environment so that I can get the resources and the data where I want them. The third part is this data control. Is the whole value for companies is, and CJ was talking about, is once I have the data, great, I just want to just toss it in an archive. I need to actually act on it, create new systems that allow people to take advantage of it. And more, those are real time. So they have to be near where the action is, where the customer is, where the device is. And so data control systems, data management systems that work across those, a company defining some rules so that people are using that data effectively and scalably. But as I would say, doing it ethically, because that's an important part of this story, is critical. And then the last thing I would say is not a technology. You need to find partners who can create an innovation ecosystem. So it's not that they're doing everything for you, but they can bring together the various technologies, the various providers, the various software or smart companies doing things in different areas and allow you to get access to them to create new services. That's really what we say is the strategy that an enterprise does to really execute on this digital transformation.
Okay, so turning back to you, CJ, since you are our guinea pig for the day, you've got to where you are now. What comes next? What do the next 1 or 2 years hold for Mighty? What are the big projects that you really want to try and roll out? And if you can explain to us as well why you want to try and roll those out, that would be great.
Absolutely. I mean, Rick touched very brilliant points, and I'm just going to build upon what Rick said, so that then I'll come to the next journey bit. The data we collected, we indeed offer that back to our clients through 2 products. One is called Mosaic, which is running our on the data lake, and that's a product name Mosaic. We already rolling it out to 85 of our clients, where they can real time see their data, their facility data, and they can monitor it, what's happening. That's exactly what we did, so that they have got better control of their facilities and what we are doing to that. So that's point number 1. The number 2 is another product which we built upon, which is a byproduct of our journey, was ARIA, where the traditional approach is you have to call up, I mean, you know that when you go into an office, you have got a coffee spill on your desk, or you want a cleaner to come, you have to go to the reception, call up a number, somebody will turn up. What we've done is we started creating the apps, which is called ARIA, where we given in the hands of the end user, where they either use AI chatbot, where NLU engines work behind and understand it and raise a case for you and dispatch somebody to come and look at it. And also we are investing quite a lot on predictive analysis and predictive maintenance. Where we are going with this, multiple things we are doing. The predictive nature of the data, slicing and dicing and meaning out of it, and start proactively managing it is a big theme for us. We already have got large manufacturing unit. We monitor the vibrations of big fans to keep optimal condition. We have got one manufacturing unit. They make multi-million equipments, and you have to have that optimal temperature at all the time. And these big fans pump air into that particular manufacturing unit. We already have got vibration sensors where we see the heartbeat, and we can predict you 2 or 3 weeks before when the fan is going to fail, and we can dispatch somebody. That's a big theme for us. The predictive maintenance, we are very actively looking at and working with the partners. Again, Rick mentioned with the technology innovation partners to get much more meaning and better products out of it. The other big thing we are exploring with Vodafone and few of our partners are augmented reality. And we firmly believe the connected engineer is going to be the future, specifically a post-COVID era where we don't want to be sending engineers multiple times to a client location, send once and remotely support them. How we are going to do it? We are going to take the benefit of the 5G network with an augmented reality wearables, where we already have got the pilot successfully running, where we can see and display what the information of that equipment back from our CAPM system right in front of that engineer, and then he can operate on it guided by a skilled engineer sitting at our service operation center. Very exciting proposition. We are working with our partners on that. Predictive maintenance, service operation center, remote controlling the assets, and helping and maintaining energy consumption, helping carbon footprint reduction through technology, and connected engineer. There are big themes we are on right now.
Okay, so the question I was going to ask you is how long before your facilities start managing themselves? Your sensors can all speak to each other, and then the AI can optimize it for everyone.
I'll bring my partners Jen and Rick into that session. They are the technology backbones.
Jen, how long is it before we can automate a lot of that process?
I think it's sooner than we think. From like the technology building blocks. That's probably possible.
Right.
I think any business needs to think across that. What kind of experience are you trying to deliver? And where are you going to differentiate at different points along that customer journey of whatever customer you're serving? And is there a human element for each of those And if so, invest your best talent and your best people on that point of differentiation, that like wow moment in the journey. And then everything else really that you want to put your mind to it, automate it.
Okay. And actually, we're discussing augmented reality as well. I guess a lot of that tech is also already out there, right? You can hook yourself up to a HoloLens and you can get going.
Yeah, that I think there's more work to be done on the infrastructure that could make things so much better. So I think this is one of those spaces where latency makes a huge difference on customer impact, on the customer experience. I'm notorious for getting motion sick. I could not play video games after Duck Hunt was released. That was about the most sophisticated graphics I could get before I would start to feel nauseous. And it has to do with the way your inner ear responds. If you move and the thing that you're asking, you're pretending to interface with doesn't respond in the same way that a real person or a real thing would, your inner ear and your mind kind of get distorted. So I think there's more work that can be done to reduce the latency, to bring the cloud closer to the endpoint, to make the network bandwidth, with 5G more capable, lower latency, and to be able to potentially eventually, those HoloLens devices are really expensive right now, and many of them are wired, and that's not a great customer experience. So we need to start evolving that. Gaming consoles, super expensive. Is there a way we can offload that compute into a more scalable on-demand model? It improves the form factor, it lowers the cost for the end user, and also you can then deliver more sophisticated graphics with lower latency and really achieve the potential there. I think that is one where there's more work to be done. There's a lot of technology coming that's going to improve it, but it'll be a few years before it's ubiquitously available everywhere. And that's what you need to be able to really improve the devices over time.
Yeah, hey, Jen, I just have to echo with you on that. I mean, we've seen there is augmented reality out in a number of places, in parts of maintenance, construction, other pieces. But you've raised the scale issue. So you defined it as kind of bandwidth and rapid response. But for us, it's how do I get all that resource out near those edge locations, whether it's a construction site or a factory or a hospital. Frankly, we're seeing a lot of these in healthcare use cases. And that's where 5G, just the bandwidth isn't enough. It's tying that into things like the mobile edge computing services, that ability so that companies can assume and developers can assume that there is actually that compute where they want it and need it, and it's sort of on demand, we think is the next big part of making that augmented reality story happen. So
I agree with Rick and Jen, because we are not thinking about immersed reality or virtual reality. I mean, I get very motion sickness as well. So what we are looking at more on edge, I mean, our business cases are mainly around, if I can do pretty much all my work in a mobile phone, including my emails, and I can read a document, we are looking at how we can leverage that edge bit and give it in the hands of our engineers, and to make sure that they get the same kind of user experience and can navigate through their systems and get the jobs and do the jobs. Then we are looking at wearables, which is very low cost wearables, where we can get some basic information and guide them through the process. So I mean, there are quick wins we are looking at, but the proper fully blown HoloLens kind of virtual reality and augmented reality, virtual immersed reality is something I agree it is not near, and whether it is relevant to our industry at this point of time, I'm not sure. But definitely, if it's a bit of augmented reality and a lot of edge, is something where we are heading, in my opinion.
Okay, now we've had a lot of questions, so I think I'm going to start putting them to you guys. The first one I think is a question that comes up quite a lot, which is the concern that if you're going to embark on a big transformation project, you're not going to get your return on investment in the short term. And actually, at the moment, it's even harder when companies are generally, because of the pandemic, maybe constrained a little bit on cash flow. So how do you mitigate that? Sijo, how did you view this?
So when we started the transformation projects, I mean, we didn't start at a 3-year project. We had a 5-year roadmap, very well-defined, board-approved 5-year roadmap, but it was chunked into minor sizes. I mean, we were looking at 3 months, 4 months delivery cycle where we were very targeted, putting customer and our employees at the front and looking backwards and saying, what do we need to do achieve? It was all baby steps in a fast way. I mean, the transformation, in my opinion, the transformation programs which run for years and years, that days are over. It has to be quick and fast. And you will do some transformation when we are going to upgrade your backend entire ERP systems, or we are going to completely transform your entire business areas, where we are doing one program, which is a year program, which we are embarked on. But most of our big business benefits, which we saw so far, is on quick and fast, smaller projects where we get the return of investment working along with our business and partners and with our clients. That's what we are seeing. But at the same time, we are doing a massive program called Forte, where we are completely redefining the facility management space. And that is very exciting. And that we have to do in a bigger and larger scale, because our benefits are much more bigger in that, and the impact which we are going to create is bigger. So we have got a combination of hybrid, multi-hybrid model where we look at the ROI.
Okay. Rick, Jen, did you want to come in on that?
So I would comment that I've seen that as well, for sure, at Vodafone over time. Like I've seen a huge transformation in the way that we work, in that I think before we were always prioritizing the stuff which we saw as like a quick return to revenue, or like a quick business case that would drive revenue, right? So we got very focused on how we drive products to market, which is great. But if you're not delivering the transformation and adopting transformative technology underneath everything that you're doing, that makes it more difficult and more challenging to unpick. So one of the things that Vodafone has done is they've built a very detailed multi-year vision of where we're going to transform. Particularly, we call it our digital transformation journey, right? So looking at how we improve our customer interfaces and how we use AI more in terms of how we serve our customers and meet their needs. But we're doing that in a very, this is probably an overused term, but kind of adopting Agile methodology. So really looking at it as being bite-sized chunks, where we define the value that chunk is going to deliver up front, and we work towards that in an adaptable and flexible way. And I think that has made a huge difference in how we operate. We used to have, and networks used to be, huge monolithic change programs. Now networks are transforming more and more to look like cloud services. So you can do a bit of network transformation, you can do a bit of cloud transformation, and the way that application development tools and AI are really getting democratized, you can build applications off the top. That's almost used to be the hard stuff. Building applications is the easy stuff now. It's the underpinning infrastructure that you need to transform that's going to be the heavy lifting. But as that network starts to transform to be more programmable and more adaptable and faster and connects better to the cloud and can be consumed as a cloud service, you can start to chunk up even those big transformations as well.
Yeah, I just add in with this. I think you highlighted the business issue of RI has value and it's critical, but for some transformational things, you have to be thinking about more what's the end business goal and trying to achieve it. I would say though that part of what we find is that things like cloud certainly help you reduce the investment side of the story, because you can move from a CapEx, I got to go pay for 10,000 devices and put them in every facility, to now, whether it's public cloud that we've talked about, but increasingly even physical assets you can now get on a pay-as-you-go consumption-based model, but still have central control and not feeling you're losing cost, you're not adding operational costs. That reduces the of starting to roll out these systems and make it. And so therefore you can show that return faster by doing that. But as I think Jen pointed out perfectly, you have to be very modular, increasingly modular in your approach, and then B, very specific about looking at the value of each individual element and how it flows across the whole value to the organization. And I think that that's a big part of it. I would say just bring it back to it's more like think about the return on environment of did you improve your customer's experience or your customer's outcome? And if you do that, you'll get the return on investment.
Okay, next question. What do you each think is the killer use case for edge computing? Who wants to go first on that one?
Well, IDC.
I'm happy to go first if you want. I think for me, it's computer vision or anything that is sort of sensing, seeing, perceiving the environment around it, and then responding to what's happening. I think that's what is going to drive the majority of the workloads that are moving to the edge.
Yeah, Jennifer, just with you, and I mean, that's sort of IDC's job. We're supposed to be prognosticating these things. And I do think that the introduction and the use of computer vision and introducing it into many new things. I think one of the things that people will underlook is the introduction of computer vision into manufacturing as a way to get around some of the things that have prevented people from really trying to automate a lot of those manufacturing processes because the machinery was not able to communicate or is out connected. It's amazing what you can do if you can have visual or LiDAR or radar access into some of the stuff to detect problems, to look for new things. That's one. The other message is, though, the edge is going to be very industry specific. It's not going to be like mobile phones where the killer use case was that we could all watch, Premier League or the Ashes or the Super Bowl online. These are going to be things where this allowed, a specific medical group, medical team to, change its diagnostics from days to minutes. And now I can react and save lives because of that. Or the same thing happening in construction, or the same thing happening in a whole range of different use cases. So part of the challenge with edge is that there's going to be hundreds of killer use cases, but they're going to be very specific to each, basically not even an industry, but a task within an industry, because that's where value comes from context. And that's
right.
I agree with it. For me, anything which can make my employees and make mighty employees or mighty clients' life better without going through a complex technology transformation or going to reach out some back office, anything which can be done within the power in their hands, that is killer application. Anything which I can see, that will be a killer use case for me, and I'll be right on it.
Okay, Sijo, I've got a question specifically for you. Looking back at Mighty's transformation, at what stages did you, IT, engage with other parts of the business the most?
So let me put it in a very controversial way. I don't separate IT and business separate. That's, for me, that's old school. IT is right and center of any business. If business can't survive without IT, IT can't survive without business. It has to be part of the same fabric. So my answer is, at every stage, at every step, I am the business partner. I am with the business. If I am not solving their day-to-day problem and my client's problem, I'm not adding any value. So every step.
Okay. Now we're almost out of time, but I want to just get one last question in here. But you'll have to answer very, very briefly if you can. So I guess one of the things we haven't discussed is the impact on employees of all of this change. And you're basically asking people to totally change the way that they work in many cases. What do you think employees want out of the future vision that you're sketching out? And how do you ensure that they're supporting the change?
So the frictionless technology, that's what I call everybody is now mobile enabled. Everybody knows how to operate on. Nobody needs any training. As long as the employees doesn't have to go through a massive training, the technology is frictionless for them and they can do their job better. They are very open to it. I've seen a massive pull from the employees because they don't have to call up somebody to just say, I reach this site, pin in, pin out. It's all done through mobile phones just by clicking on a button. They're very happy to do that. We do that. And that's a massive change because we don't need to push it because the technology already enabled the employees to adapt more and more technology through the mobile phone, through the WhatsApps, through the various other apps.
Rick, Jen, do you have any views on how you make sure you take the employees with you? I'm all for the idea of as little training as possible.
Yeah, I think we're all now. I mean, even the above 60 age group now are the biggest adopters of online grocery shopping, right? A year ago, I don't think any of us would have believed that, right? So adopting new technology, adapting to new technology is something that I think everybody can do and can embrace. And as we look forward into the next year, I think it's really about how do we provide employees the right mix and the right balance between communicating in the digital world and communicating in the physical world? And is this going to change? I'm sure it will. CJO's facilities to improve, opportunities to collaborate and innovate and work together. Because that's why I'll go into the office. I'm never going to go into the office to have a day sitting at my desk in headphones again, which, to be honest with you, working for a global company was like 80% of the time for me before. Now, when I go into the office, I'm going to go there because I want stimulating conversation. I want to drive new strategic programs by collaborating with my colleagues.
Yeah, I just say, and just close on that thought is, we saw 40% of companies said that they were going to put in software to track their employees while they're working remotely. And to me, that was the wrong answer to keep your employees motivated, because you're treating them like children and you're assuming you can't trust them. When we've given guidance, people have said, walk in and assume that any time that your employees are interacting with a customer, that has to be the gold standard for your business, whether it's a good interaction or a bad interaction, crisis or advanced sales. But this has to be the gold standard. If you always hold that up and you give the employees what they need so that they can do that properly, then, I think you'll find they're going to be happy and you're going to get better results. So, and this is like, your people matter and if you walk in with that attitude and you reflect it to your employees, that what you're doing is so that they can provide better capabilities to their customers or the people they interact with, then you're going to be in much better shape.
Okay. Well, look, we've had an amazing hour of discussion. We've covered an awful lot of ground there. The good news for those of you who are viewing from wherever you are is that you can play back the session for 30 days on the website, so you can go back and savor some of the insights that our panel has provided. I'd like to thank CJO, Jennifer, and Rick very much for your time and your contributions. And I would like to thank Vodafone Business and IBM as well for being our partners today. So thank you very much. And once again, happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
Thank you, Malcolm. Thank you, CJO and Rick.
Thank you, Jen and Rick. Nice meeting you.
Have a great day, everybody.